Thanks for the invitation, and above all, thanks for struggling with my surname.
English disease.
As a matter of fact, this is my calling, not only to introduce people to Polish surnames, I don't know why we are given such strange surnames, but also to Polish culture. And I have a friend from America whom I wanted to introduce to the soul of Poland, so I took him for a trip to Polish borderlands with beautiful landscapes cultivated by human hand. We were open to surprises, so we traveled without any plan. We were just invited by people to come by and to spend nights with them. And we finished, it was the pinnacle of the trip. We finished at my grandparents' house with my grandpa. So here there was a young Columbia graduate, 20-something, and my grandpa, who was in his 80s. And they tried to communicate. But they were worlds apart. They were also languages apart, up until one moment, when my grandpa told my friend, Reagan, and my friend answered, Reagan. And then my grandpa said, Reagan okay. And my friend said, Reagan okay. So that was that moment of that special bond that was created between continents, between generations, between cultures. They understood. And one funny thing about it was that the theme of their very short conversation was actually the condition of possibility of that conversation. So they couldn't have had that conversation without Ronald Reagan and without John Paul II. Clark told more about statecraft, then I will turn to soulcraft. And of course, there are many affinities between John Paul II and Ronald Reagan. So they were brought up in the shadow of war. They had that very close bond with their families, with mothers who taught them how to pray, with fathers who died in the same year, 1941. They were also actors. They were also, I think, first global leaders, really global, not confined to one continent even, but really global leaders in a good term, in a good sense. There were assassination attempts at both of them, and I think they are still going on. So they are, people try to kill them even after their death, and it shows how powerful they were. So. We tend to forget people who died. But if John Paul II and Ronald Reagan are so controversial now, if there are so many people who try to quench their memory, it shows how powerful they still are and how important for us they are. I would like to just focus on one quality that they had in common, and I think that we can also think about that quality, and this is a quality described by Edwin Friedman, who was an American rabbi of Polish descent. So he somehow combined those two cultures, I mean Central Eastern European culture and American culture. And he wrote that the quality of a true leader is so-called non-anxious presence. And when you think about those people, you will see that they were present. They were present to the reality. They were present to anxieties of the world. They were even present to, let's say, apocalyptic moment of that time. So they knew what was going on. But on the other hand, they were non-anxious. And it's a polarity. On the one hand, we have to understand what's going on. We have to somehow feel the anxiety, but on the other hand, we have to be free from that anxiety. So it's very hard to achieve. It's like a balance. It's like a pendulum. It's just going between those polarities. And just I'm thinking about them along those lines. So they were non-anxiously present. Also, they were non-anxiously present in the time that seemed really like the end of the world. So there was a possibility of the atomic struggle that would end the history of humankind. But still, John Paul II would say, have no fear, as Anna recalled last time. have no fear of apocalypse, have no fear of the end of the world, have no fear of the collapse of our civilization. And with that attitude, they could prevent the failure of that civilization. And it changed everything. So when John Paul II came to Poland for the first time, people understood from the Communist Party, they understood who he was, and actually that he was present. And there was a secret instruction sent to all schools, to all communist officials, how to look at John Paul II. So let me read it. Then it was leaked to Solidarity Press. The Pope is our enemy. Due to his uncommon skills and great sense of humor, he is dangerous. Because he charms everyone, especially journalists. Besides, he goes for cheap gestures in his relations with the crowd. For instance, he puts on a Highlander's hat. He shakes all hands and kisses children. It is modeled on American presidential campaigns. So there was that secret memo sent, and look, for them, it was uncommon skills, like a sense of humor, like hugging somebody, like shaking hands, like being with somebody. So what they really described, he described a man who was free, who was non-anxiously present. And they knew that they have to be really, that they are in a dangerous position. So whenever such a free man is born, whether in Poland or in America, it's like a miracle. And everybody else is just going nuts because they feel that they cannot manipulate somebody like that. They feel that he or she does not depend on fashions, on other people. They understand that they have their own, free people, they have their own agenda, and this is agenda of freedom and goodwill. And the question is how to be non-anxiously present, how to be non-anxiously present, because when you look, for example, at Ronald Reagan, when he said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," it was non-anxiously present. He was not, shouting, "Mr. Reagan, Mr. Gorbachev." He spoke it with confidence, with conviction, with courage, but without hysteria. So how is it possible? They both were actors, and I think this is one of the keys to understand them. They both were actors. It means that they knew that there are many roles we can take on, and that our life is a theater play, and we are on the stage. John Paul II wrote actually a poem about acting. Let me find it for you. So he wrote something like that. So many grew around me, through me. I became a channel, unleashing a force called man. Did not the others, crowding in me, distort the man that I am? Being each of them, always imperfect, myself to myself too near, he who survives in me, can he ever say and look at him without fear? So he understood that there are so many people also in our heads. We play so many roles, so we can lose our identity. We can no longer know who we are. And I think that was also the experience of Ronald Reagan when he played so many roles. So we might be very anxious, we might be full of fears. And I think their discovery was that it's not their play. This is not their play. This is God's play. And John Paul II understood that he is just a part of the divine theater play. And also that was a strong conviction of Ronald Reagan, that what he does in his life is just only a part of a plan. And therefore they could be non-anxiously present in apocalyptic times. Thanks so much.